We're going to have the chat offline while Pat is providing his update. And that point, we will open the chat for folks to ask their questions, either via chat or to raise their hand. I'm going to turn it over right now to Phil. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Beth. I have a couple of slides I just want to use as reminders, but while Beth is calling them up, I want to thank everybody for taking the time today for this last minute critical conversation. We want to update all of you on information that we heard as early as of this morning around an update around what's going on with Cowan and our roof project. But first and foremost, it is a great week of celebration, and want to make sure that I recognize the fact that we have trio graduation tonight, pinning tomorrow, evening of excellence, the dual enrollment celebration on Wednesday, and then, of course, commencement on Thursday. So we hope that you have all of these times and dates down, and we look forward to seeing all of you and celebrating with our students at this really exciting but incredibly busy time of year. Also wanted to remind you the fact that there will be, and I need the next slide, Beth, a series of open door days, and we've given you that was a quick flash. Open door days, not only for this summer, but the schedule for the remainder of the next academic year. So again, all you need to do is get in contact with Angela if you'd like some time. We can do this either in Bedford or Lowell and on Zoom. If we find that there's some time available, you can also drop in, but it's always better to have you on the schedule where there are a lot of things. So we fill in that time if we don't have folks coming to stop by to talk. But happy to see any of you and talk through any concerns that you may have or ideas. Always helps when we have that open communication. And the next slide is a reminder about the Employee Appreciation Cookout that's coming up in August. Transportation between the two campuses, but it's our first opportunity to really welcome Sue and Nicole in a somewhat informal but formal way after they will have been with us for almost a month. They both start on July 6th, so thank you for that. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who completed any and all of the 360 evaluations that occurred over the course of this spring or fall. It becomes part of a conversation between the supervisor and that would be me oftentimes with anyone from PLC, and then gets built into their annual evaluation, annual NUP evaluations, and I'll be doing those in June, I believe that they're scheduled. And so it's helpful for us to really get some feedback from everybody, and we take all that feedback very seriously in reading and reviewing it. I just received, after closing all my feedback this morning, haven't had a chance to review all of it, but I want to thank all of you who took the time to really comment on my evaluation and my work over the last year. And because this is at the 5-year mark, also over the last 5 years, sort of a retrospect about areas that people think that the institution is either in better shape or in worse shape based on current leadership. So really appreciate you taking the time to do that. One of the things that becomes most apparent to me over the course of the last 5 years is every time we try and tackle a building or an infrastructure challenge, even after we've sought after grants or received money through our extended and much better relationship with the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, that nothing ever goes perfectly in any one of these scenarios. But I think one of the most challenging projects that the college has undertaken is obviously a new roof and the new HVAC system on the Cowan building. It has been a bear of a project from the very beginning. I want to thank Pat and his entire team and Allie for helping us work towards making sure we have DCAM money and institutional money to support getting this done. I mean, what I've learned is there's a reason that nobody does this or nobody has done it for the last 40 some odd years. And that is because when you have such an active building with classrooms and office spaces and support spaces, finding exactly the right time to make any kind of change is not easy to do. And it's especially not easy to do for an institution that is engaged in offering courses and activities here on campus for every week other than the week between Christmas and New Year's every year. So it's a busy place, and trying to find a way to do an important project like the one that needed to be done was not going to be an easy task. And we knew that, and we had a runway for that. And we've had lots of stops and starts in this. We've dealt with the issues of supply chain. We've dealt with the issues of trying to make sure that we can address when cranes need to come in and out. And I think you'll get a sense of where we are with the project. But we always knew that at some point we would have interrupted service in this building. And that would mean that we would have to find ways to really relocate everyone that's in the building for a period of time to be able to address that. First and foremost, we wanted to make sure we did that at a time when it would not be disruptive to students, right? That's our primary function here in serving students and educating students. So we had to find a time when the minimum number of classes would be impacted. And we certainly have tried to do that all the way through the project, but most importantly, tried to do that this summer as we will be installing the new HVAC system. But Pat will tell you more about that. But that's been our first priority. But obviously, our second priority is to try and make sure that when we get to a place of we have a new HVAC system, you'll all have, hopefully, the entire building will have better heating and HVAC systems in terms of air conditioning as well. And we won't have any leaks that we've been having over the course of time. I had a chance to actually see the roof today, and it's quite remarkable how this thing has been buttoned up, and it looks remarkable, just like the federal building did when it was done. So I really want to make sure that you had a sense of what the timeline would be for that. We've been working with leadership to be prepared for when we had to leave this building and when we had to move classes. And I just want to do a shout out to the enrollment team and to Kayla and to those folks who have been working diligently with us on making sure that students are at the minimum part of impact, and that at the same time we're able to shore up a temporary one-stop in the federal building this summer so we can continue to serve students. I'll let Pat go through most of these details with you about where we are and what we've learned from our partners in this construction project and an implementation project. And then we'll be happy to try and take some questions from all of you that you may have about how this is going to play out for the remainder of the summer. So, Pat, at this point, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. And I apologize. I know we're ramming a lot of important information here before some of you are heading off for the summer, but we really wanted to try to get as many of these answers provided so folks understood what it is we're facing for June, July, and August as possible. And hopefully there'll be continued updates. They're gonna, especially through the month of June and July, that we'll be able to share. But at this point, I want to make sure that everybody's got all the information we have in our hands, including the stuff that's fresh as of today. So, like Phil has said, just a quick piece of history, because folks know that I can't help but somehow telling history stories with regards to the campus. The building we're in is 41 years old, built back when Wang Laboratories was going to inhabit it next to the Hilton at the time. So some of the equipment and some of the HVAC systems that we're replacing are original to the building 41 years ago. There have been some updates to it in the course of the ensuing 36 years that we've been in the property ourselves. But this is long overdue work for this building. And like Phil said, I wish there was an easier way or time to be doing this. But just so everybody does understand, we're dealing, with contractors and a number of subcontractors who are working the project for us that we've been meeting. We literally meet once, if not twice a week, and have been doing it for months on end here. But just so folks understand in terms of a timeline and what we're looking at, and then especially what happens or can happen within our control. This particular next phase of the project is something that we wanted done starting in May of 2025. A year ago, right after commencement, is when we wanted this to begin, and we wanted it wrapped up before August. The contractors were not able to get the work done for us, so they started the work. Actually, they wanted to start the work the first week of school in September, so we held them off on that and pushed them into the end of September. So they were installing the new roof on the top of this building as well as on the lower calf down outside. That work is close to completion, but not finished yet. There's still some housekeeping items that are going to occur over the next few weeks. We're going to show you some pictures just in a couple minutes just to show you what the spaces look like right now. But at the same time, what's happening is that we are replacing a unit on the building, which is known as a DOAS, a DOAS. It's a dedicated outdoor air system. And this is essentially an HVAC system that it pulls in the air and the air conditioning and gives us fresh air from outside. And this, to my knowledge, this is the first time, it's certainly been the first time it's been replaced since we've been occupants of the building, whether it predates us being here or not. So to install that unit, they have to take our existing air filtration offline for a period of time. So when they didn't come through with our request of getting this done last June and July, the contractors came back to us with a plan B, and that was going to be to shut it offline after finals in December and trying to get it back online before the commencement of the spring semester. Well, first of all, we didn't have a lot of confidence that this was something that was going to occur within that 3-week span because of holidays, vacations, and what have you. And secondly, we weren't really in favor of turning off our heat for those 3 weeks during what could have been a potentially interesting stretch of cold weather. So we, at our request, we held them off and asked them to come back after commencement of this year. So as a result of it, they are literally coming and starting the work this Friday, the day after commencement for us. So there's a couple of important updates that we really want to share with folks. I just, actually, you know what? We can show a couple of those slides right now, whoever's running the scroll deck, just so you can understand what it is we're talking about. So the very first thing that's going to actually happening, and I know you got kind of a quick update on this at the last critical conversation, but now that we've actually got a timeline in our hands, which was delivered Friday and then refined this morning, I talked at the last critical con about the installation of our new entryway in here to Cowan. So I'm just pulling up our schedule as I'm talking to you so I can refer to it. And for the folks in the front lobby and beyond, when I tell you that we asked them to wait until after commencement, they're going to begin this work on Tuesday of next week, the day after Memorial Day, to begin work on our front doors. They're going to do some demo work, and the demolition of those doors is going to take place during the month of June, during which we'll be installing a new revolving door in the center and the new automatic doors on the left and right. Shout out to Jamie Marsh. We've been working to come up with a plan to install at least a temporary accessibility ramp off the back lower calf that goes onto the brick walkway that runs alongside of our building. Facilities is trimming back the hedges to make that walkway completely open and accessible. Just a reminder to folks, the space out behind us is not owned by us. Those gray granite slabs are very inaccessible for anybody with any mobility issues. So we're going to use only the footprint that's available to us, the brick walkway that runs alongside the Eastern Canal, to have those ramps installed. But that demolition work there will begin, like I said, according to their schedule, which they provided as of Friday. Excuse me. That the actual demo will begin next Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday is the key days next week, running into the middle of June. So that is happening simultaneous because we don't like just doing one monster project at a time. We figure we do them both simultaneously here during the summer when we didn't have a lot of the population in-house. But the front entrance will still be accessible at all times, just not all 3 entry points. Next slide, whoever's scrolling us here. So that is fresh picture from this morning of what it's looking like right now up on the roof here at Cowan. With the new roof installed, they're beginning to seal the walls. You can see one on the left side. They haven't finished that side. They're sealing the ones on the right. It's quite blinding up there. It's going to be an interesting drone footage now shot from above because it's going to be an all-white roof that does it. You need the sunglasses if you're going to be going up there to check out the digs. Go to the next unit though, because this is the one that really is going to be impacting the. Everything you're seeing on the left-hand side of the photos there, That will be remaining. That's some of the coolant towers that we have that are being used to currently take care of our IT department and the server rooms. Those units are not being replaced. Everything you're seeing on the right is being replaced. And I think if you go to the next picture, if there's one more, should be one more slide.
There are
Nope.
no more slides, Pat.
Okay. So the big unit, the behemoth that's in the middle of the picture on the right, is what's being removed. I'm sorry, I don't know why. I thought there was another picture that accompanied it here. That's okay. Those are the units that are coming offline. So once we heard, talking to the contractors, that they were going to be taking this offline, we asked them to provide us with a best case and a worst case scenario. And I guess it depends on how you define best and worst. So the absolute minimum in which they're going to be shutting off the air conditioning to the building, the best case scenario would be 10 days. However, we don't believe that to be a realistic timeline. So we asked them to come to really crunch it down a bit further to us and get us to an expectation where we, could safely say there'd be a disruption to the building. Now, one of the things that I want to make clear before we start talking about the plans that so many other people have been helping out with here is that this building that we're in will still be accessible. It's not being locked up, shut down. People will be able to go to their offices if they need to get something out of here. There just won't be any air conditioning in the building. So the spaces will be constantly accessible. We're going to, at no point will we not have folks in the lobby. Public safety will be here throughout this entire project downstairs. But what we decided to do about almost 2 weeks ago now, we pulled in some other members of the emergency management team to have a conversation about doing a building relocation. And so there's a number of folks that have been involved with trying to find out how we could do this without, with minimal disruption. And as Phil said, the number one priority in the conversations was that we did not want to impact any of the classes or the student attendance on campus. So I want to give a couple of shout outs here because this is not, moving the occupants of a 6-story building into other environments here on campus is not an easy task. So one of the first people we tapped here in her new role was Kayla Karen to try to help us figure out with all the folks, including welcome to Middlesex, Shauna, for our new registrar, how to relocate an entire building of classes. I'm going to tell you that they had their work done within a matter of hours. So as monumental as it sounds, they were able to do some finessing pretty quickly, and they're welcome to join in at any point here to add some color behind the scenes. But they were able to get all of our summer classes safely relocated to other spaces here in Lowell. Predominantly, we're going to be using the federal building for everything we're talking about moving forward, although there are several other moving parts of this. As Phil had stated to a group of us when we first met, that don't forget that we still have 16 other buildings, so everything could be in play here as far as finding homes for programs or bundling of cohorts from within a particular department. But first priority above and beyond was getting the classes relocated, and that was done. So there will be no summer classes being held here in Cowan whatsoever. Everything will be in federal building. So moving into the second stage of priorities was then going to be trying to maintain a version of service offerings for students or anybody that would be coming in at any point during the summer where they could still do their one-stop information. And so what we did is we also moved everything across the street to the federal building. So I want to give a huge shout out to Jordana Shaw, who was basically letting a whole army of squatters come into the library, the mezzanine, the offices, the Kerouac room, and all of the above. We have essentially taken over all of the spaces in federal building to maintain all of the services throughout the summer. So Kayla and the folks that she brought into her meetings with Noreen McGinnis Olson, and I'm not even sure of everybody else who got drafted into service, quickly came up with a plan for taking over each of those spaces and what was going to be happening in the private spaces, as well as essentially the lobby of the federal building is going to be our new one-stop entry point. We're going to have a number of greeters there. If there are students arriving, they're looking for a particular service, whether it's advising, whether it's counseling. We have spaces that have been designated now throughout the building, including down in the basement of the federal building. And we even have the courtroom up on the third floor in our back pocket for additional space. So the federal building will be transformed into our main hub here in Lowell for a really good portion of the summer. I'm going to get into the dates in a couple minutes. But we also are still exploring using some of the spaces that we have available over in Talbot, as well as the health building, as well as the Academic Arts Center, if need be. But right now, because of what Giordano was able to do with some deck shuffling, I think it feels like, at least at this point, Federal is going to be able to accommodate everything we're looking to do for student services in Lowell. But what we're also doing is we are going to be making use of our Bedford spaces as well. So we've got a lot of real estate in Bedford that can be used for some of these services. So I know some of the departments are deploying some of their folks down to Bedford during this period of construction. We're going to be making use of the trustees building. We're making use of the spaces in Cataldo, and we're making use of spaces in the enrollment center, as well as academic resources and the library in Bedford. We've been able to identify rooms and areas that don't currently have any summer activities scheduled for them. And we're trying to keep cohorts together as best we can. So if there's 3 or 4 people, we're trying to get them set up in a classroom or an area where they can still be accessible to one another and keep their function contained in one area. So it really does feel like, I cannot express enough gratitude to the folks who over the last 10 days have stepped in to problem solve and tell us what their needs would be in terms of space. One of the things we're hearing loud and clear is that, there is, and there's a separate document we're working off of for an operations plan for IT support, because we know that there's going to be, for folks that don't have laptops, going to be deploying some desktops into the area, printers, both private and public ones. We're going to make accessible to folks over in the federal building. We want to make sure we get the Wi-Fi bandwidth to support everybody that's going to be over there. But it does feel remarkably comfortable that we're going to be able to accommodate all of this by just getting creative with the spaces that aren't being used for the summer. So that being said, what we had asked of the contractors is we've been pretty demanding now on when they can and can't do certain things. We've given them some blackout dates as far as when work can and can't occur. So, for example, they were going to start this week, but because it was finals, we asked them, we told, and what we have going with the commencement celebrations for 3 days, last week and this week, we told them those are kind of off limits to do some of the really disruptive work. But many of you have seen the cage and the fence that's outside still in the, encircling this parking lot behind me here. That's going to remain in place throughout the summer here. We do have cranes that will begin arriving next week to be lifting the heavy materials up onto the roof. Because it's a safety issue, that whole area will be penned in again for the construction vehicles only. But you're going to see a lot of activity with the heavy trucks in the coming couple of weeks. But here's the key dates that it's an announcement now for folks on the call, because this is literally just something that fell into place Friday and today as far as when we can expect all this fun and frivolity to commence. So the actual shutdown of the HVAC systems here in Cowan will begin on Monday, July 6th. Okay, and I'm saying that date for a number of reasons. And Kayla, I can't see where you went to on the call here. You disappeared off screen, but there you gotcha. So what we are going to do for our planning purposes is we are going to use the prior week, the week of June 29th, 30th, 1st, and 2nd to physically move our operations across the street to Federal Building. We'll still have the air conditioning at that time, but we're going to use that week as our staging and setup week for the new deployment over at Federal, with the expectation that, July 6th, they're flipping the switch here and we'll be losing the AC. I'm going to be I'm going to share with you, but be completely honest, that our belief here is that despite their best case predictions for what could occur for the shutdown, there is a strong likelihood that the Cowan Center would be without air conditioning for the entire month of July. So this could be a 4 week, 4 to 5 week relocation across the street to Federal. So for planning purposes, if they come back and say, "Hey, everything's great. We're able to get back on, line at the 13th or the 20th," so be it. We'll take it as bonus weeks, and then we'll have to take a few days to get everything back in place here in the building. But realistically, we want to plan for the extreme and maybe even beyond. If it even trickled into the first week of August, what we've told them is we have to have full operations back in this building before August 17th. For a number of reasons, because we know that's when students are starting to come back into the building for this fall registration. But we are trying to give ourselves that 2 or 3 week buffer here in case there's any hiccups or surprises from the once they do the new install of the DOAS unit. So I would love nothing more than to say that it would be only the weeks of July 6th and 13th that this shutdown is in progress, but trying to be honest and realistic and not pessimistic, but very thoughtful in how we're planning out on how long this could occur. So that's really the schedule that was delivered as of today. We have another meeting with them tomorrow before we get into the pinning and the Evening of Excellence events. But there could be some other surprises that we're going to find once we it happens on any kind of a project of this size, but we're hopeful with all the advance planning that's the schedule we're gonna. I know that's the schedule we're gonna be seeking to hold them to, and we'll provide updates via email communications as we go. There won't be. I don't believe, Phil, that this is on for tap for another of our critical conversations, but I'm happy if there's any June or July ones to just tap in and kind of give project updates, but otherwise we'll try to share things electronically through emails as best as possible, so everybody has any updates, specific updates that would impact them. That's kind of it from this as far as the timelines and what to expect. I'm happy.
The only thing I'd add, Pat, in all of that is that conversations with your supervisors, those of you who reside in Cowan. There have been lots of conversations about where those folks who will not be part of the One Stop will be available to have workspaces in Bedford. And I just want to make sure we mention that as well, that for this time that we will be out of this building, that there's a space. I'm really grateful we have two campuses. And I'm really grateful that we have the Federal building right across the street, so that while none of that is ideal, it still provides an in-person, a critically important in-person opportunity for our students as they're navigating, especially new students, as they're navigating coming into the college and getting registered for the fall. And, I'll be really honest with all of you that none of this is without surprise in terms of the way projects turn out. You've had projects in your own home. You know exactly that nothing ever works according to schedule. But this building is so integral to who we are as the main building in Lowell, to our students, to our faculty, to our staff, that we cannot afford to kick this can down the road any longer. If we want people to have heat in the wintertime, and we want people to have air conditioning in the summer and create a comfortable environment for all of our folks that work here now and for decades to come, then we have to really engage in this process. And while it's been a long and painful process, I think we're getting through the final steps here. The roof looks terrific in terms of we don't expect any additional leaks. The way this thing has been sealed, once they finish the sides of the walls, will be amazing. I know that we're getting state-of-the-art facilities in terms of what we're getting for the new HVAC and heating system. So I'm very encouraged about what this will be like when we get to the other side of it. And for many of you who have not been on the roof, you've not, other than some pictures, you've not seen what this is. But these systems are integral to all of our comfort and our work environment for now and into the future. So I want to thank you all for your patience and your flexibility and your determination. We need to do this. And we are perfectly capable of doing it. We just need everyone's cooperation and working with their supervisors. So I would say that the Dean of Enrollment and all of those folks have been so critical to making sure that we have a fully functioning one-stop in federal. We have great plans to make sure that that continues, and obviously have access to what you need for working on our Bedford campus as well. I think it's a great opportunity for some of us who don't get to spend as much time on Bedford to really get a better sense of the folks who make that campus so vibrant every day as it continues to do the work that we do in Bedford. So we're happy to entertain any questions that you may have. We may not be able to answer your individual question. In other words, where will I be during this time? Because that's a conversation that you will have with your supervisor. And some folks, like I think Matthew's in some faculty interviews. And, I don't think we may have everybody online that can answer your individual question, but generally, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have around anything that we haven't explained well or anything about how this will proceed as we move into the end of June into the beginning of August. So, Beth, I'll turn it over to you to navigate any of those questions to make sure we can try and answer as many questions and concerns that people may have as we possibly can.
Absolutely. The first question that came in, is the DOAS unit being replaced, or is any ductwork being replaced or updated as well?
Both. Brand new DOAS unit and the ductwork. Actually, the ductwork is starting before the DOAS itself is installed. Yep. So yeah, the ductwork actually is going to be occurring starting on the 5th floor within the next 2 weeks.
I just wanted to add, this is Allie. The DOAS unit is being paid for by ARPA money that we received for air quality. So it was, the timing of the project, we're lucky that the money was extended to when it was, but it's, $1 million worth of equipment that will be on our roof, paid for through some of the COVID funds that we got from the state. So, it's a win, obviously, to have someone else footing the bill. So just wanted to share that benefit with everyone.
Great point. Thanks, Allie.
The next question that we have is, IT was planned to begin work on the cyber lab in the server room on the 4th floor of the Cowan Center after July 7th in preparation for fall 26 classes. Could you please confirm whether the planned construction will affect access to or work within this space?
Access will be always available. As IT knows, both of those units, both in the IT room, the server room, as well as in classroom 403, are independent systems. Those will not be impacted by the DOAS installation. And as I stated at the beginning, and I'll repeat this every time we have this conversation, the building will still be constantly accessible. We're not closing or locking up the building. Anybody can come to their office or their floor at any time, as well as the contractors or whoever is going to be doing the work up on down on 4 for the IT work. So the building will absolutely be accessible. I shudder to say this, but some folks don't mind. Some folks don't love the air conditioning. I mean, it's not going to be it will be balmy in some of the areas, but people can still access their workspaces if need be at any point during this. The floors themselves will not be inaccessible or disrupted.
Yeah, and both the IT server room and the server room for that particular purpose for students is air conditioned and is set. So I don't think we will have any issues there. We'll double check on that timeline, but I think we'll be fine.
All right, the next question. Will there be signage to orient staff and students where services will be located during this time? Also, will there be additional members of public safety to guide students where services are being relocated?
So, Beth, you can field the question on the signage because you know we're coming your way. So the answer is absolutely, for sure.
Yep.
We're going to wallpaper everything with the signage for, what has to be done for access. And yes, we're going to have additional public safety personnel on scene, especially if we're going to be making the building accessible from the rear entrance through the lower cafeteria, which would have the ramp on it. But yes, we're deploying extra personnel here, but we're going to have the, pardon our appearance signs up wherever possible. I should also reference that we're not having any community events on campus at all during in the Cowan Center during that window of time either. So there wouldn't be any external groups using the space.
We're also planning to do regular mobile app posts, so all employees and current students with A numbers will be able to get reminded regularly of where things are going to be located. And we will, of course, also do some social media, and we'll work with enrollment to make sure that communications that are going out to students who we are hoping to come to campus to enroll, that they will be clear. The next question, will there be an increase in shuttle service to Bedford?
So I see that in the chat. So the answer is there will be an increase over our usual summer schedule. Yes. There won't be an increase over what we have during the course of the normal semester, which is, when we have the student population moving back and forth. But we will be, maintain, especially during the shutdown period, we will be making sure that we've got constant circulation going back between Lowell and Bedford. We taper off as soon, starting next week, we significantly curtail the shuttle schedule, but I'll talk with Dan Martin to make sure we get posted and circulated what the new increased schedules would be during the impacted period.
All right, next question. For those who will be moved to Bedford, will IT be able to temporarily transfer their phone extension to their temporary Bedford location?
So if there's an IT person who wants to jump in on this call, I've been told the Avaya will handle what we're going to be needed, but anybody who's got, I'm trying to scroll through and see who we've got that is more technologically savvy on Avaya than I am. Where are we going here?
Yeah, my understanding is you get access to all your phone systems right through your computer. But that's also not a complete answer. So
I'm not an IT, but I can speak to that in enrollment. So you do have access to sign into the Avaya app. You can add it directly to your personal device, and then you have access to your full phone, any call groups that you're available or accessible to, or your own individual phone and voicemail, all through the app on your desktop. So it's definitely important to get in touch with IT if you don't already have access to that on your computer.
Yep, and we can get that information out to folks so that we can follow up. Thanks for bringing that question up.
The next question, will security hours be extended for any night classes in Federal?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Next question, between now and July 6th, can something be done so the temp in the Cowan building is comfortable? I have found it currently to be too hot or too cold.
That's because we have a really, really old system, and it's barely hanging on. So we're happy that it's even remotely functional at this stage of the game without this new system. So we're doing everything we can to modulate the temperature. I mean, we're also at a very strange time where we're getting, it's 50 degrees tonight, and then tomorrow will be 93. So it's not easy to manage these buildings at this time with the quick swings in what's happening in terms of the temperature. But we're going to do everything we can to make things as comfortable as possible. And I would encourage you to reach out if people need fans or other things as they're moving through the process, and know that we can actually begin to get the process ready for Bedford spaces to be available if people are running into particular issues earlier in this transition. But again, speak with your supervisor about those pieces.
What I can say also at the same time is that facilities is working directly with IT right now to make sure that our HVAC folks have remote access so that they can deal with some of these temperature issues, because we do, as the president well knows, sometimes we'll have a event that's occurring at night where we get asked to regulate room temperatures, and we want them to be able to do this remotely from a laptop so that they can access and address those needs. But, as Phil said, this building, and actually most of our buildings, but primarily this building, has fluctuated. So, we've turned the air conditioning on a day and a half, sometimes ahead of time, to get things up and running. and feel cool enough. And then we have people walking in that say the building is freezing. So we're trying to modulate as best as possible between the two.
All right, the next question. Are there any electric vehicle charging points in Bedford? I'm asking in case I need to work there.
So Christina, I'm going to come your way with this, but the answer is yes, but not fully to where we're heading. But Christina, this is actually absolutely a perfect opportunity for you to update folks on the significant work that you've been helping move forward just in the past few weeks alone.
So the public EV charging stations will be installed early June. So we will hopefully have those up and running in early June. So if people are coming in July, then they should be in place.
Those are going to be directly behind Cataldo in D lot. D is in Delta.
Yes.
Right.
Currently, right now, they are in place down at the facilities building, but those are for our vehicles in-house that we're going to be using, the electrical vehicles. But the ones that Christina helped us secure with Ally, really at an amazing, amazing deal in terms of the timing with the state. That's the ones that are going to be installed next month.
Anyone have any additional questions? You can raise your emoji hand or you can drop them in the chat.
If I just want to add that as your additional questions come up, as you're pondering some of this, I'm going to encourage you to have conversations with your supervisor about locations in Bedford and what's going on here over in the federal building, so you have a clear sense of where you will be. And again, I want to thank you all for your patience. We need to make sure that we have the systems in place so that we can that we will not be in a situation that we've been in the past with these systems not being as modern or as effective as they should be. For a building of this age, it's quite remarkable that the systems that we currently have survived this long. And again, I would say, like in anything that's happened in your own home, whenever you're in the middle of a process, there are some short-term pain for some long-term gain. And we realize that that will be the process for us in July, but we thank you all very much for your work and your cooperation in this, especially as we serve students through this critical time. So if there are no other questions, I want you to know that you can reach out to Pat or I at any time during this process, but your specific questions about any assignments for you for July would be with your direct supervisor and your relocation to Bedford or over to the federal building. And we thank you very much for bringing up a lot of points that we've thought about, but even haven't gotten through all the pieces completely, and making sure that we get information to you about the Avaya app and others. So we've got some follow-up things based on your conversation today. So I can't thank you enough for your time, because I think it always makes the process better for all of us. So thank you again, and we look forward to. Oh, we got another question.
Question: will the library in Bedford be open earlier?
Jordana, you on here?
Earlier than what?
Let's see. Yeah, there you
Yes. At this time, I do not know what hours. At this time, both libraries are scheduled to be open 8:30 to 4:30. Obviously, that might have to shift in some way, but that's what we know right now. That's what the library staff will be. It's possible that if your office is in the library, that the library staff might be gone, but the security will secure the doors. So it's possible that the hours can be extended.
Great.
And then Evan from IT, Beth, you going to triage that one?
So Evan has graciously given us a little bit more info about the Avaya system. The difference between Lowell and Bedford phone numbers exist as a matter of policy because the campuses have different area codes. They will work on either campus without issue.
Great. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate you jumping in with that.
Nothing else is coming in.
Great. So let me thank you all once again for this very busy time, taking the time. We appreciate. Wanted to get the information to you as soon as we have it. Again, shout out to all those folks who have done amazing planning work on this and While this may be disruptive for us now, we hope that it will be a much better situation for the building in the future. And thank you all for what you do and for taking the time today. And we'll see you at one of the celebrations this week. Have a great afternoon.